read this. That's all right. I'm not really sure when Jose started telling other people that I was his dad, but I remember the first time he called me that directly. It was in a letter he wrote to me from the Juvenile Detention Center on May 9th, 2014. There was something about those words and that title of dad that meant more to me than he would ever know. It wasn't just that I didn't have a biological son and that I loved Jose like my own. More importantly, Jose's expression of love and affection that he began to articulate during those pivotal 2 years of being locked up represented such a profound transformation from the hard, emotionally detached teenager that I had grown to accept when I took him into my home a few years earlier. His willingness to openly share his feelings and even reach out for a hug each time I saw him during our weekly visitation sessions gave me such comfort that he was opening up his heart to be loved, and more importantly, that he was learning how to demonstrate his love for others. Jose had many reasons to be detached and closed off. The trauma he had experienced growing up in intense poverty with a mother battling addiction issues is more than any child should ever have to endure. But I knew there was something special about Jose from the first time I met him at the age of 5 years old, when he used to run out to my car each afternoon as I dropped off his older brother Eric at the group home where they had been placed. It pained me to know that I was responsible for the two brothers being removed from their home. But as Eric's middle school principal, I was left with no choice but to report to social services the neglect that I had observed. While my Carolina experience prepared me for many things, it had not prepared me for experiences like these. After all, I was a business major, studying the numbers and the strategy of running a successful business. It wasn't until my Morehead summer enrichment experience and the placement in Houston, Texas in a 7th grade classroom that I even began to contemplate the possibility of pursuing a passion and not just a career. Inspired by the possibility of addressing the inequities in urban education that rattled me so much that summer, and the potential of building impactful relationships with kids like Fernando and Raphael and April and so many other Summer Bridge students I connected with that summer, I left Carolina with a fire in my belly and a drive that would have made Uncle Mott proud. As a Teach for America 3rd grade teacher in the West End of Atlanta, that passion and drive bolstered me when the days got really tough. And it was that same passion and perhaps some ignorance and arrogance that made me think that the next logical step for a 25-year-old white dude with a 2 years teaching experience under his belt was to start a college preparatory charter school in an all-black community. If nothing else, the Morehead-Cain experience taught me that I could do whatever I set my mind to, and a lack of a charter, a building, or funding wasn't going to stop me. And it didn't, thanks to a lot of folks, including the national network of KIPP schools, who rallied around my vision and stayed with me as we expanded from 2 KIPP schools to a network of 8 schools across Atlanta in 6 years. I learned to power through setbacks and funding cuts. I learned to navigate political landmines and unwelcoming community leaders. And I learned to push my team towards excellence even as they were exhausted and burned out. I beamed with pride as our kids made tremendous academic progress and our schools became recognized as one of the highest performing schools in not just the city, but the state, and not just for low-income kids, but for all kids. And in 2014, when I got the call to serve as the deputy superintendent for Atlanta Public Schools, it was a quick yes, because my resolve was still intact. My belief in what was possible for Atlanta's kids was every bit as strong as it was when I first moved to this city in 2000, although perhaps grounded in a bit more reality around how entrenched and interconnected the challenges are. This Morehead-Cain story is supposed to end with me taking on the role of president and CEO of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Metro Atlanta, where I would have the opportunity to lead the largest youth-serving organization in Atlanta. It's supposed to end with me pointing to all the success stories that have blossomed out of my Summer Bridge experience in 1997. But that hasn't been my reality, at least not my whole reality. Yes, Jose ended up getting out of juvenile detention and turning his life around. He moved back in with me, got admitted into Georgia State University, and graduated in 2020 with a degree in sociology, the first in his family to graduate from college. And oh, what a proud dad I was, because I knew that what he had overcome to get to that graduation stage. But a year later, I found myself holding his cold hand in the Newman Piedmont Hospital, just a few blocks from where he had taken his life on the side of the road earlier that morning. a couple of hours before he was expected to be in the Fulton County Courthouse. Part of my soul was ripped away that day, even though I understood why he did it. Yes, I had leaned on my own life experiences as a first-generation college student, growing up in a working-class family, to teach Jose that he must push ahead despite the obstacles and to never give up hope. But I had never faced the possibility of 20 years in prison. As I held his hand that day, with tears streaming down my face, all I could think about was the amazing human being that he had become. I watched Jose give generously and volunteer countless hours for causes he believed in. In the height of the pandemic, Jose asked if we could spend our day driving around delivering pizzas to the homeless around Atlanta, rather than doing our traditional family Thanksgiving. In his final weeks on this earth, Jose was working through a lot of his own issues. But despite all that he was shouldering, he reached out consistently to check on me, as he knew that my brother was dying from cancer. He couldn't stop caring for others, even as life was weighing him down. But he was gone. My Jose was gone. While this wasn't the first tragedy that I had experienced in life, it probably was the hardest. And what I recognized in the weeks that followed, as I also buried my own brother and broke up with my partner, is that life was chipping away at my soul. It wasn't just the dramatic moments, like posting bail for my mentees who had made yet another bad choice, or attending the funerals of former students whose lives were tragically taken too soon by gun violence, or racing to the scene of a fire that destroyed the school I had poured my heart into. It was also the little moments, like the feelings I had on the first Monday of every month as I pulled out of the Atlanta Public Schools parking garage late in the evening, following another school board meeting that shook the very foundation of my belief in public education and our ability to fix it. Or witnessing yet another superintendent transition that began the vicious cycle of turnover and the dismantling of nearly everything I had invested in for 6 years. Or grappling with the impossible labor and funding challenges that have prevented the Boys and Girls Clubs from hiring, retaining, and fairly compensating the staff required to reach the kids who need us now more than ever. How do you keep on keeping on when you have that nagging question in the back of your head as to whether it's all worth it? How do you tap into that zealous spirit of ambition and unshakable belief in the potential to make an enduring impact when it seems that the L's on the scoreboard are far outpacing the W's? How do you not give up hope when life keeps chipping away at your soul? I've come to believe that that question in many ways is a question we all must wrestle with in our own way at some point in our lives. Everyone here has faced setbacks, disappointments, and even tragedies that stop us in our tracks and make us reassess where we are in life. It's what we do in those moments. It's who we surround ourselves with during those seasons. It's how we find ways to refill our cups. And it's how we pull away to get some perspective that ultimately determines whether we slowly become jaded and desensitized or maintain that fire in the belly about the things that matter to us most, our passions. Admittedly, I'm still figuring out how to keep the fire burning. But I'm learning that my fire is fueled largely by micro moments. Like when Diallo Mack, my former Kipways Academy scholar, recently reached out to invite me to his wedding. While I couldn't attend because I had to be in Chapel Hill last weekend, I had the chance to take Diallo and his fiancée out to dinner to reconnect with him over a meal. As we shared stories about his time as a rambunctious middle schooler, Diallo reflected on a Cheesecake Factory dinner conversation he and I had had 15 years earlier, on the day that he had gotten expelled from school. As he reminisced about a moment I had nearly forgotten, tears began to fill his 28-year-old eyes as he told me how much my words of encouragement had meant to him during a time when everyone else was berating him. I'm not really sure, a passing moment for me had left an indelible mark on him. I'm not sure what it is for you, how you keep pushing when it seems like your efforts are in vain. But for me, it's those little reminders and countless others that the universe has a way of resurfacing exactly when I need them, that allow me to recognize that the seeds that I may not even realize I'm planting today are bearing fruit even when I can't see it. Indeed, as the scriptures remind us, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. I have faith that God is using my work to have a multiplying effect beyond what I can see. And I have to believe that Jose's 26 years on this earth did the same. May your faith sustain you with all that life brings your way. Thank you.